We can get started. My name is Amina Dib, and I'm the Manager of Government and Stakeholder Relations at RESCON. Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. As a reminder, all of our webinars, including this one, is recorded, and the recording will be posted on our website a couple days following the event, and it will also be shared with everyone who RSVP'd. If you have any questions or comment throughout the event, you can put it in the chat. And during the panel discussion, you can also use the Q&A feature. Before we begin, I respectfully acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional territories and treaty lands, in particular, those of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, as well as the Anishinaabe of the Williams Treaty First Nations, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis Nation. As RESCON's office is located in Vaughan, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. Last year, we hosted our first Women in Construction webinar. Roughly 5% of the tradespeople in the construction industry across Canada are women. This stat comes at a time in an industry where demand for workers is high. Over the next decade, 100,000 workers will be needed to offset retirements and to keep pace with the goal of building 1.5 million new homes. Long-held stereotypes about the construction industry being not suitable for women, while not true, have only made the problem worse. And while the industry is improving to remove barriers, there is still a culture change that is needed across all sectors of construction, including in residential. The macho culture of construction, lack of separate facilities on job sites, and forfeiting workwear are just a couple examples that we've heard that serve as barriers for women entering and staying in the construction industry. At RESCON, in addition to raising awareness about careers in construction to women and holding events like today in hopes to educate members and change the culture, we're working to ensure that our members have a standalone anti-racism and anti-discrimination policy and encouraging them and their staff to take Build Force Canada's DEI-focused modules, Introduction to Understanding Systemic Racism and Working in a Respectful and Inclusive Workplace. We'll put both of these resources and more info in the chat shortly. At RESCON, we've been advocating for better data and labor market information that is broken down by sector of construction and trade, and researching best practices from other industries who have overcome similar challenges in recruitment and retention of women. Today, we'll hear from women who are working to make the construction industry a more welcoming place for women, and the importance of fulsome onboarding and mentorship programs and training the people who train, and best practices on inclusion. Our keynote speaker is Charmaine Williams, the Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity. Charmaine was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario in the 2022 provincial election. She represents the riding of Brampton Centre as a member of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. She is currently the Associate Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity and is the first Black woman to be appointed to a PC cabinet. Prior to provincial politics, she was elected to the Brampton City Council. Minister Williams also had a 19-year career as a certified multi-systemic therapist, behavioral consultant, and counselor. As a mother of 5 children, she understands the importance of advocating for those who cannot advocate for themselves. As a Brampton City Councillor, she had the opportunity to spearhead numerous economic, social, and cultural initiatives that benefited Brampton communities. Her track record of success is a testament to her ability to help communities thrive, build programs and institutions to support vulnerable populations, and provide dependable leadership. She now carries her passion and experience into her new role as Associate Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity, where she intends to make lasting effort that positively impacts women and families across Ontario. Welcome, Minister Williams.
Hi, thank you so much, Amina, for that very kind introduction. Hello, everyone. It's a real honor to be here. And before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that I am speaking to you from Toronto. Let me just lower this because I look like just a talking head. That's better. I'd like to acknowledge that I am speaking to you from Toronto, which has been a gathering place for many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee and Wendat and Métis people. I also acknowledge that I am in the area covered by Treaty 13, also known as the Toronto Purchase, and I pay my respects to the Mississaugas of the Credit. I always think it's important to acknowledge that the lands that we're on are not our own, and we are guests here, and it's such an honor to be able to serve the people of Ontario from these spaces. So last June, I was honored to be appointed as Ontario's Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunities, formerly known as Women's Issues. I'm glad there's been a name change because I always say my issues are my husband's issues, and they're issues that impact everybody. This is a new portfolio that is recognizing and advancing women's social and economic opportunities. And this new portfolio are goals that go hand in hand. Working women represent almost half of the workers in Ontario and account for almost 40% of families' employment income. But women continue to be underrepresented in many areas critical to our province's economic growth. And it's frankly unacceptable, and that has to change. We know that when a woman changes her economic future, she does it not only for herself, but for her children and all of those who depend on her. So it's simply not about advancing a woman, it's about advancing her entire family as well. This means we need to attract more girls and women into the skilled trades, as well as sectors like science, technology, engineering, and math, where there is a labor shortage. We also can do more to increase a woman's representation in the residential construction sector by working together. Because increasing a woman's economic participation is good for families, employers, and business, it's excellent for Ontario's economic growth. Now, as a result of COVID-19, women and gender diverse Ontarians have faced additional challenges such as increased economic insecurity, greater burden of caregiving responsibilities, and a rise in the incident of domestic violence. We also know that women are overrepresented in jobs that pay minimum wage and part-time employment, but are underrepresented in many of the fastest growing, highest paying sectors, such as the skilled trades. Now, low-income women also experience significant barriers to skills training, such as lack of financial resources to replace the earnings that you would spend for childcare, as well as accessible mental health and legal support. And I think it's clear that this needs to change and the barriers need to be addressed. So on a recent trip to Thunder Bay, I met with the Carpenters Union. I've been mentioning this a lot because I think it's just a crazy stat that blows my mind. And it's because it's so timely and important. Our discussion was centered around how they are working to bring more women into the trades, because they are expecting an 11% labor shortage in the next 5 years due to retirements. This is a valuable industry and that has high earning potential and great pensions, and women need to be a part of this next chapter. That's like 170,000 people who will be leaving the trades, and women can definitely fill that gap. But that must go hand in hand with ensuring that women's safety in the trades is paramount. And this means when a woman shows up to work on the job, that she feels safe and she feels protected and is able to be successful. According to Stats Canada, like we heard what Amina said earlier, about 5% of the skills trades are women. And that number has not changed in decades. What is being more apparent to me as I go around and I speak to many women who are in the trades and many of you who are doing this work, what they're finding is that number hasn't changed because after 4 years of being in the trades, many women end up leaving. So that 5% hasn't really moved. So clearly we need to do something to make sure women feel supported once they get into the trades so they can break through that 4-year mark and be successful. With the demand for housing ever present and expected to increase in the years ahead, there is simply no better time than now for women to join the skilled trades and make a positive impact on the sector. And we're doing some great work with our partners to grow the female footprint in the skilled trades and ensure it is a safe place for women to work. Our government's skilled trade strategy was announced in the 2021 budget. It's designed to encourage more young people to pursue careers in the trades by breaking the stigma associated with the sector and attract more young, youthful, and young women, and simplifying the system and encouraging employer participation. Through this strategy, the government is investing in several initiatives that support women and girls to explore the trades. Now, specific to my ministry, over the next 3 years, we're investing around 25 million to empower women into entering and re-entering in the workforce. With this investment, community-based organizations and education and institutions are delivering programs that help women overcome challenges and build in-demand skills. This includes 10 million over the next 2 years for the Women's Economic Security Program, which provides employment training, skills trade pre-apprenticeships, training in entrepreneurship, and information technology, as well as wraparound supports. And wraparound supports, I think, is so key. Building a network for women so that they can feel secure and know where to go when they need support. This investment will help low-income women gain skills, knowledge, and experience, including in fields where women are underrepresented, such as technology and skilled trades. It also includes 15 million over the next 3 years in the Investing in Women's Futures program. And that's a pretty cool program that my ministry was able to announce a few weeks ago. This program will provide employment readiness, counseling, and violence prevention to ensure that women have those skills. Because again, when women feel like there's no way out of an unhealthy, dangerous family and home environment, they stay in it. And that's why we want to empower women and get women the skills training so they can have jobs and have that stability to be able to say, I can leave, and when I leave, I'm going to be okay. This funding will help women facing social and economic barriers transition to employment as well, such as providing online services for women with dependent care responsibilities and limited mobility, and or living in rural and remote communities. So that's just some of the things that we are doing to make skills trades more attractive to women. And also, you know, I always say to the women who are out there who are working, you are empowering the next generation, because they say, if you can see me, you can be me. And that is so important, to see that women are there, present at every table, in every sector, you name it. Women need to be there, and we need to support women when they are there. And so I'm really excited about these opportunities, and I hope you are too. I believe that we have a great chance to, in the next few years, to push the reset button and bring women into the heart of the post-pandemic economy. But all of us, government, private, education, other organizations, have to continue to work to make this happen. And as a mother of 5, it's so important to me. And I understand, trust me, I understand the pressures and the challenges. But I also understand that the time to address these issues are now. And success will be a group effort with benefits for all, because the skilled trades don't just build careers, it also builds a province. And women should be at the forefront, because I truly believe that when women succeed, Ontario succeeds. So thank you so much for having me here. And I look forward to listening to all the other great speakers. Sharon Young, I didn't get to see you on Monday, and I want to be able to connect with you, but I had to dip out from Sheridan College there. But yeah, I'm really looking forward, and thank you so much. Reach out to me in my office anytime.
So I get the honor of, I guess, saying thank you for those kind words, those thoughtful words, those important words. usually when I do a thank you, I try to focus in on one phrase or one theme that was discussed, but I don't know, you hit all the points. And so I think under your leadership, under the leadership of this government, I think we're in a great position to make change. You get it from a skilled trades point of view. There was a little bit of a call for action from the industry, right? And so what's clear is through your office and through this government, we've got, strong partners to make real change.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring. And so thank you very much for being here today and your leadership and what you're able to say and kind of that call to action. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks so much for having me.
I also have the pleasure of introducing Melissa Young, who is the CEO and registrar, I'm just going to add her in the spotlight, of Skilled Trades Ontario. And so I've got a lengthy introduction here. I'm going to touch on a couple points and then I'd like to personalize it. So Melissa has a very illustrious and dedicated career to the skilled trades. She's from the East Coast. She's now the CEO and registrar of STO. She is a results-oriented bilingual change leader who knows everything there is to know about workforce development, the skilled trades. She was the executive director of Netco. She has experience in the electrical sector. And since coming to Ontario, she has quickly figured out and embraced that you can't spell skilled trades without the word construction. And so she's taken the time to get to know the players in Ontario. I'm very excited to listen to her speak. I have had the opportunity to listen to her speak before. Just like the Associate Minister, Melissa is one of those leaders who gets it. And so without further ado, let's turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you. And Minister Williams, we definitely need to connect. Thank you so much for your words. They're very inspiring. And in previous jurisdictions I've worked very closely with your specific department. They're huge players for us. So we will get connected soon, for sure. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of the land that we are collectively gathered on today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this place and continue to care for it. I commit to learning more about our shared history and ensuring Indigenous peoples feel welcomed, respected, and enabled to thrive in the skilled trades. Thank you, Andrew, for the kind introduction. Feel free to shorten it at any time. It's a long one. And for Minister Williams' reference, I was a member of the Carpenters Union for a number of years and actually worked for the union itself at one time. So I'm really happy to hear that outreach is happening from your ministry. That's fantastic. It's my absolute pleasure to be joining you virtually to discuss and celebrate women in construction. As a woman that has worked in skilled trades for over 30 years in numerous capacities, including residential construction, this is a topic that's extremely close to my heart. It's also a key priority for the government and the agency that I lead of Skilled Trades Ontario. The construction sector is booming here in Ontario. I think we're all well aware of that. In 2021 alone, construction counted for 7.2% or over 500,000 jobs in Ontario. Those are the ones we know about that are on the books, of course. And as of 2022, over half of Ontario apprentices were registered in the construction-related trades. So that's over 40,000 of our just over 80,000 apprentices are in the construction trades. So it's no surprise to see strong support from industry and large provincial investments being made in infrastructure. Earlier this year, the government announced plans to build 1.5 million new homes over the next decade. The creation of Skilled Trades Ontario is just another sign of supporting that initiative. And we have a very clear mission at Skilled Trades Ontario. Number one is to streamline the system for apprentices and skilled tradespeople. I have found that it is a very convoluted system. However, we are working to make a path more amicable and a one-stop shop for apprentices coming in. Number two is to promote the many opportunities the skilled trades have to offer, reaching out to youth, the underrepresented, Indigenous peoples, newcomers, and of course, women, to raise awareness of the many, many careers in the skilled trades. And number three, to address the labor shortage by making it easier to get into the trades. We need to involve those that are directly impacted and provide leading edge research to support Ontario's needs. And this is more pressing than it ever has been before. By 2030, 1 in 5 job openings will be in the skilled trades. I think we're already at that point now. I don't think that's that far ahead. I don't think it's really 2030, but that's what the statistics are giving us today. So in construction, a high number of workers are set to retire, leaving more vacancy than people to fill them. From January to March of this year, there was an average of over 23,000 construction jobs waiting to be filled in Ontario alone. That number is nearly twice what it was in 2019. And according to the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum, to meet demand in the Red Seal trades, an average of 75,000 new apprentices across Canada will need to be hired over the next 5 years. And according to StatsCan, in 2020, there were just over 381,000 registered apprentices in Canada, with 24% of those being in Ontario. When you take into account that there's 13 jurisdictions in Canada, and a quarter of them are all in one of the jurisdictions, which is here in Ontario. So if we look at the percentage of the 350,000 needed across Canada over the next 5 years, and in Ontario alone, we would be looking at 84,000 new apprentices. I actually think that number is quite a bit higher, and we need to validate that through very quantitative and qualitative research, which we are going to be embarking on. And that's just using the formula from those 2020 numbers that I mentioned earlier. And as you know, this is much easier said than done, and we have a lot of barriers to overcome. For one, the pandemic has impacted our apprenticeship system here in Ontario and across the country, quite frankly, and slowed down immigration tremendously. In 2020, we welcomed under 83,000 immigrants, the lowest level recorded since 1986. And Ontario has the largest year-over-year decline in new registrations for apprentices since 2020. Fortunately, we're starting to see that rise actually quite substantively. So it is bouncing back. Thousands of skilled immigrants have already transitioned their credentials through our trade equivalency assessment process at Skilled Trades Ontario. However, we need to attract more skilled newcomers to construction and make the process easier to transfer their credentials here in Ontario. So that seems to be quite a barrier for most. This includes people from other countries as well as other parts of Canada. And I have questions that I want to pose to the group. I'm not looking for responses, but it may generate some discussion because I don't have the answers or the solutions, but I'm certainly open to hearing what they might be from your perspective. So what could we do in Ontario to entice other Canadians to come to work here in Ontario? Alberta's been doing it. So what is it that we need to do? I do come from the East. I see billboards. I return to the East Coast frequently as I do still have a home there. And there's ads and billboards all over the province that I come from. Come to Alberta with all the benefits, and there's a lot of promotion. It's on the local TV stations. There's ads. You know, what could we be doing in Ontario to do something similar? Social media. I'll be on a social media account, which I'm really terrible at, but I do go on them from time to time, and I get pop-ups all the time about work in Alberta. There's lots of opportunity for us to advertise and reach people. If I'm seeing them, a lot of other people are seeing them. Just the other day, I was on a bus coming from the airport to Union Station, and I overheard a couple of ladies talking about their kids. They were complete strangers to each other. I found out after the fact. Of course, I was eavesdropping because I was sitting behind them. And one of them was talking about how her son was a welder working in Alberta because they were talking about what their kids did. And the other lady looked at her and said, you know, and she was quite well dressed. And so I was surprised. She said, wow, he must really be coining it if he's in the skilled trades. I can't tell you how great it felt to hear them say that. Don't know who they are, but it was so positive to hear that said about the skilled trades being a really viable career. But I want to see that same representation for skilled tradespeople here in Ontario. We need to get out there and promote our province as a top destination for talent in high demand sectors like construction. Young people, especially young women, will be critical to meeting that goal. But as we know, they are vastly underrepresented in the skilled trades. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, just 2%, they conducted a really great study. It was a worldwide study, but still very interesting, that just 2% of 15-year-old female students plan to pursue a career in the skilled trades. So why is that? I don't have the answer. I have a lot of thoughts around it, but don't have the answer necessarily. I would say that one reason is, as the minister noted earlier, they don't see themselves represented. And all too often they hear and internalize messages that skilled trades are not suitable for women. I've had many experiences in my 30 years, and some of them have not been so great. I will say that. But it's the great ones that far outnumber those not so great ones that kept me in this industry. And I don't think it really matters what career you choose. There's going to be ups and downs. Whether you're an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, administrative assistant, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be ups and downs. It's how you handle them, react to them. And in construction, unfortunately, there's not always the best supports. But I think we've come a really long way. And with the minister's office and their mandate, I can see that we're going to go a lot farther with that. So BuildForce Canada estimated in 2020 that of nearly the 1.1 million tradespeople employed in Canada, women made up only 5%. I did get a statistic earlier today from the ministry, which came through StatsCan. Actually, 12.1% of overall jobs across construction in Canada, that's all positions, could be in the office, it could be engineers, architects, whatever the case may be, safety professionals, are women in all positions. So that's an encouraging number, still pretty low. 5% is extremely low. It's been at 5%. It was at 4% for the longest time. So we have gone up 1%, which is great to see. But in all of my 30 years, I have not seen that number. That needle hasn't moved a whole lot. So we need to take a new approach, because what we're doing really isn't working. So if we're really truly going to make the skilled trades for everyone, we need to confront the challenges and perceptions. I heard the minister mention stigma, and it's a stigma. I'm trying to come up with new terminology and language when I'm out talking, especially to young people. So I've started using the word perception to try to take that negativity away, but it's stigma. There's no doubt about it. Talking here amongst friends in the construction industry, we got to do something about it. We can't sit on our hands. When students picture a skilled trades professional, no matter who they are, they should see themselves. Because if you can see it, then you can do it, which I think we heard in the minister's remarks. And that starts in the classroom by getting the word out to teachers and guidance counselors about the benefits of a career in the trades, parents as well. So I can guarantee you that nearly every grade 12 student in this province can tell you about the deadline for college or university applications, but very few could tell you about the pathway into an apprenticeship. There's approximately 140,000 high school graduates each year in Ontario. I don't know the percentage are female, but I'm going to say, going with population, probably about half. So how do we get our slice of those youth to choose a skilled trades as a career path, especially the girls, the women, the young ladies? To get the word out, we need to make a better case for the benefits of an apprenticeship. And that includes getting paid to learn your trade with no student debt at the end of it. The earn while you learn has been a coined phrase for many years. We've seemed to sway away from it. It kept me in the industry. So, but also the many other opportunities, such as owning a business and being your own boss and all the other jobs that are related in the industry that might not specifically be on the tools. We are still a new agency, but we've made some great strides forward. Yesterday, we unveiled our new brand in partnership with the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training, and Skill Development, with our new tagline, opportunity in every skill. This is important. This is an important message for people, especially young women. It challenges misconceptions and stereotypes and sends the message that there is a skilled trade out there for every passion. Later this month, we're kicking off a series of career fairs led by the ministry. And our staff will be in Mississauga, London, Sudbury, Ottawa, and Thunder Bay, where over 15,000 students and their parents will learn about careers in the skilled trades, focusing on in-demand sectors, such as construction. They'll meet educators, employers, apprentices, and get answers to those burning questions that they may have. And each day we'll finish with informal sessions with parents so we can drive the message home. And I just wanted to note in here, just a sidetrack, construction is the #2 most in-demand sector in Canada, with retail being #1, or the service sector. So restaurants, retail, and naturally so. But we're #2, construction's #2. And not far, there's not much of a difference in the numbers, quite frankly. When we're on these tours, we're going to meet with stakeholders in each region to discuss ways to welcome more professionals to our province, skilled trades professionals. This is just the beginning for STO. We have a lot to do, but I look forward to building a relationship with you as we chart a path forward. Andrew has become, I think, a great colleague, and I'm looking so forward. I've seen him like every week for the past few weeks, and it's fantastic. That's what I'm here for. So working with RESCON is top of mind for me, to say the least. The issues are not unique to RESCON, but there are unique issues within the sector represented by RESCON. So by working together, we can break down barriers and make Ontario known as a place for opportunities in the skilled trades. I'm fully committed to the apprenticeship and certification system here in Ontario, and I'm excited to move the needle for women in construction in this province. I can't do it alone. One voice speaks several, and several will resonate. You hear one voice, but several voices people will remember. I always end when I talk to women's groups, talk to a lot of high school girls over the years, been in I hate to call them jails, but I've been in incarcerated facilities talking to women in there too, because you know what? If a woman feels empowered and you are empowered, then it's your duty to empower other women. So I have a sign that I had in my office back east, and I haven't shifted up here yet because I'm waiting to get an office here. But when I get it, it will be right in the doorway when you walked in, because it was in my office back east. And it says, "Empowered women empower women." And anybody that ever walked into my office, I was like, "Where did you get that sign?" I said, I think I got it at Michael's or somewhere, but wherever I got it, as soon as I seen it, like, I have to have that. Anyway, I love that sign. I really hope that I can count on your support to move the needle. I really do. I don't just talk the talk, I have walked the walk, and I'm really excited to be here in Ontario. I'm more towards the end of my career. This opportunity came up. I couldn't say no to Minister McNaughton. His dedication to this industry is absolutely, and the skilled trades in general, is outstanding. I haven't seen anything like it ever in my 30 years. And I've worked with all the governments in Canada in pretty much in every jurisdiction. So this is the time. There's great leadership in government here in Ontario. Minister, again, I can't say it enough. We got to have a coffee real soon. So thank you so much. And I'll close with that.
Thank you very much, Melissa, for being with us, and congratulations again on yesterday's announcement and the branding. It looks great. We have a lot of trust in the work that STO is going to be doing, and we're looking forward to future partnerships together. Next, we have our panel discussion. Personally very excited about this section. We have great speakers with us today. Our goal with this panel was to have as many different people from construction that work in different, like on-site and in the office, so we can get as much of a holistic view as we could. We have great speakers today. To begin, we'll just do a brief round of introductions and then we'll get right into the questions. So first on my screen, I have Veronica Rinomato.
Hi, everybody. Hi, okay. I'm Veronica. It's great to be here. Thank you, RESCON. Thank you, guys. So just a bit about me. I work for Tonlu Properties. It's our land development and property management firm. It's a new role for me. I've been in the office for about a year now, and I love it. It's great. I've also worked in service and design for our construction company, Country Homes, which works a lot with RESCON. And on top of working at Tomley Properties, I'm studying real estate development presently, and I'm renovating homes in Etobicoke with my dad. So I have a bit of experience on site, and now I'm more presently in the office. So I'd say I'm about 20% on site, maybe 80% in the office. And my family's drywall and construction company started with my grandfather in the early 60s. So in a way, I'm working as a third generation member in my family's business. So building has kind of been in my blood. I've been surrounded by the idea of creating things from nothing and creative people who truly, I believe, are the backbone of the construction industry. So this is all kind of ultimately pushed me into the role I am in today.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Next, we have Janice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Janice. I am the HR specialist for the ACON Women in Trades program. And I've been with ACON for a little bit over 4 months now, but been in employment and working within the construction industry for the past maybe 10 years. And a part of my role in terms of spearheading the ACON Women in Trades program is to really get what women who normally wouldn't think of themselves as finding a career in the trades to work with us. We have over 6 different operating sectors, including utilities, which is the department that I'm from, as well as our nuclear division, our UTS, concessions, industrial west, and civil. And within those departments, we are looking to hire over 350 women within the next couple of months until March of next year. So it's a really big initiative. I'm super excited to be a part of it. So we are heavily recruiting. A little bit, I guess, about me. I come from sort of a community development background in terms of working with different employers, job seekers looking for work, internationally trained professionals, youth, women, anyone really who has been looking for work. So again, super excited to be here, and I'm hoping to connect with everyone on the call.
Thank you very much, Janice. Next is Shayna.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shayna Van Hem. I'm in my level 1 year apprentice with the CCW. So I'm getting my Red Seal skilled laborer ticket with the Lionel 183. I joined the trades back in 2019, so about 4 or 5 years ago. I was with a company, we were just contracted with Hydro One, so we did a lot of the utility work for them, did a lot of the septics and road work. That's pretty much what I do. I just work on site, still kind of building my way up in the field sort of thing, but yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Shayna. Next, we have Sophie.
Hi guys, I'm Sophie Renamato. I'm Veronica's sister. So I work in Country Homes, and my journey into construction started when I worked for Country Homes one summer when I was 18 on one of our sites. And I did not think I would come back. And after I graduated university, I wasn't really sure what to do. I did not think I wanted to work in construction at all. And then our VP of construction at the time hired me back for one summer, thinking it was just going to be a summer job. But then 4 years later, I'm still here. So I first worked on site as just construction admin, just helping out the supers with administration work, purchase orders, phone calls. And then I started getting to the service side on site. I started doing PDIs while continuing to help out the supers with anything. And then gradually over time, I just became more involved, learned a lot more. And so I was on site full time for about 2 years and working in Country Homes now, because now I'm in the office and on site. It's a nice even split. I'm a new customer care representative. So we've recently implemented customer care into Country Homes, which includes our homeowners just having one point of contact. that's consistent communication from when they sign a deal to when they get the keys to their house. And we're really just trying to give our homeowners the most information and knowledge about construction and what goes on behind the walls, just making it easy for them. And that's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sophie. We're excited to have all of you here with us today. So just to dive into things, we've all heard now of how you all got into the industry. One of the things we always wonder is, what are the challenges, if any, that you had faced coming into the industry, and how are they now versus when you first started? So I'd like to hear from all of you on the specific questions. So again, back to Veronica, what would you say is something you know that challenged you at the beginning and how it is now?
Sure. So, similar to my sister, I also started working on site when I was 18. And, I never really saw myself working in a role of construction, to be honest, but I think the influence from our family and also from our aunt, I don't know if you guys know, but my aunt was the president of Torino Drywall for, I want to say 30 or 35 years. Working in the company, she is such a trailblazer and such an inspiration for myself and my sister. So she kind of helped me get adjusted, I guess. But still, being on site at 18, I had a lot of, like, that was maybe 10 years ago. The experiences that I had then, I think, were similar but different than now. I had a super that I worked with who was just a nasty guy. He eventually got fired because I spoke up about just the way he was treating other people on site, the way he was treating women, and the way he was treating kind of everybody in general. But the difference that I've seen is that things have gotten a bit more respectful, but it also had to do with, I think, a bit of my confidence. Like at 18, I didn't really know much about construction, right? I was walking on a site and I didn't really know what to expect. And I kind of always had a bit of a bitter expectation of the people that I was going to work with, especially men. And it has gotten better. And I've learned that also the respect that you show people, you can get that back. And that's something that I'm kind of striving for more and more when I'm working on these renovation jobs, right? It's about if I'm putting my foot first with respect and, kindness, that most of the time I can get that back. And, there's always going to be bad apples, and there's always going to be people that we, unfortunately have to interact with that aren't the most pleasant. But if, from my perspective, if I can try my best to put a good foot forward, kind of best thing I can expect. So.
Perfect. How about you, Janice? What would you say was the challenge that you faced coming in, but now it's a little different?
I would definitely say not personally, but because I've been in the role of assisting other women get into the trades, I've noticed that the support is not there. And so for a lot of women, removing those barriers to employment has been sort of my challenge in terms of recognizing childcare issues, car issues, being on site issues. Some of those things I've worked heavily with some of our operating managers in the past to sort of identify and then reach out to community partners who can provide those wraparound services. I feel that's been sort of the biggest challenge. Also, I've been working with a lot of community organizations that offer pre-apprenticeship programs for women, and often I find that the training is really inadequate. And so when women get on site, they're not as confident in themselves in order to complete the roles that they need, or complete the jobs that they need in order to be successful. So I do recognize those gaps, and now we are really striving to ensure that the training programs that we offer are really extensive, are in-depth. They're working on site almost immediately. They're paired with senior mentors, and they're able to shadow individuals who've been in the industry for quite some time. So from then, it's recognizing the barriers and figuring out how to remove them, and now working with alongside also our operating managers to ensure that folks are confident and comfortable before they step on site so that they can do those jobs effectively. Yeah.
Perfect. And Shayna?
I guess you kind of mentioned it a bit earlier. I think you said something about the workflows. That, and I think like Veronica was saying, it's a lot of the old-fashioned men that I think they're not used to women coming into a field where they're used to just working with men. So when they see a woman or a smaller woman or whatever it is come in, I feel like they all naturally have like an assumption of what a woman is gonna be like in a field sort of thing. So I usually get more of a hard time when you first join a job or you're going into a company or a crew where people don't know how you work sort of thing. So it's definitely like Veronica said, the old-fashioned men, it's hard to kind of feel comfortable, especially I feel like if you have like an idea or a suggestion to give, it's a lot harder for them to take what you have to say. So that's more so what I find. It's just more so having the voice of a woman. And then guess, yeah, like I said, the work clothes. I can't find anything that fits. Nothing. So
Yeah. Thank you for that. How about you, Sophie?
When I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, didn't know anybody on site. And same thing, Shannon, like you just kind of said, like, or Veronica too, I just felt super out of place. Like some of these men just will not take you seriously. And it was a big challenge for me just to fit in. So, and I was only working with men too. And it was like one other female laborer, but she was too cool for me. And I was the youngest one there, didn't know anything. And so I had to prove that I was like one of them. And I just kind of kept to myself, was respectful, was like nice, just trying to like learning the ropes on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then like anytime I would talk to an older male worker with this older mindset, always be comments about like my clothes, hair, body, what I'm wearing, you know what I mean? You name it, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of comments along the lines of that. And that was a challenge too. Just realizing that a lot of men don't know how to talk to a young woman on site or in that environment. That was challenging and surprising. And it was a challenge for me just to kind of set that precedent for them to know the line between being funny and being disrespectful and like everyone knowing their place. Eventually over time, I obviously stopped once everyone got to know each other. It's become a lot more fun and like respectful work environment, but I would say to this day, it's still a challenge to just prove yourself in this industry and just to be seen as you're equally knowledgeable about construction and tradesmen and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're hearing a lot of just around women coming in and being confident and trusting they can do it, as Janice said, or it is women setting these boundaries and being able to speak up and have that support. So back at you, Sophie, again. I know you've worked both on site and in the office. So what are these sort of supports that women on site need from the office versus what they need from those who also work on site to empower them and to be able to be there and do their work? What would you say?
So on site from the office, definitely support from HR. Like they need to be present there to have your back. Like just to keep everyone in check, not even just men, just everyone in check, right? Review the policies. I made notes, sorry. So our company has really prevailed in that department because it wasn't as present when I first started. So that's been a big deal. And we've included more team building and company days to review policies because of some incidents that have happened on site. And from my experience too, the support from like the site super or site manager, that can go a long way. So if they act in a certain way, there's a good chance that other workers will follow suit, and that can really either encourage or discourage negative behavior and comments. So again, like once site and office like understands the lines between comments, it can just make the work environment more safe. So both support from site management and office management together is big difference, very helpful.
Yeah, so it's having that sounding board too, somebody that you can go back to and you can, just say this happened or know that they have your back. And that's definitely something we talk about at RESCON. We always target the site super specifically, what can they do? Because as you said, if I see you doing something and you're allowing it, I'm assuming the rest are going to assume they can do it, right? So yeah, that's a good point. And then Veronica, what would you say is the importance of communication or effective communication on site? Or like, what would you suggest are the best practices for maintaining good communication, whether it's with your site super or just with people around you when you're there?
Yeah, so kind of back to what I said before about kind of showing respect. And again, I'm coming at this. I know I'm young. I'm relatively still new and fresh to, I guess, the construction industry as a whole. But from my personal experiences and from what I've seen and what I've kind of been through, yeah, it's showing that respect and trying to speak respectfully as much as I can. Obviously there's times where like I can joke around with the men on site or even the men in the office. And like Sophie said too, it's very important for us as women. I find, I don't know why this has to be so important, but creating boundaries for ourselves. I feel like the best way for me to be comfortable in every situation, if it's in the office, walking into a meeting with 30 men who are all over the age of 60 looking at me like, what am I doing here? It's creating that boundary that I know I'm welcome here. Doesn't mean that you can joke around with me in an inappropriate way, but we can still joke around and definitely be friends and be colleagues. And it's important for me to do that, but also at the same time with the HR that we've implemented into our business. And we also opened a health and safety company that works internally with all of our men on site, women in the office, men in the office. It's important that we understand and we feel comfortable to speak to them. And it's also great with our HR and our health and safety. Majority of them are women. So for me, if I have an HR complaint, I don't necessarily want to go and speak to like a male colleague about it. I would rather speak to a woman. That's just my personal opinion, but I find that's important also just to welcome discussions that I don't necessarily want to have with a man. I would rather speak to somebody like me, I guess. That's just what I believe about communication and respect.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad you bring up health and safety too, and looking at it from a health and safety perspective, because we also try to really look at whether it's anti-racism or anti-discrimination or inclusion or any of these efforts through a health and safety lens, right? Because if you're not good at work or if you're unable to perform work, that can definitely impact your mental health too. So it's really good that we're able to bring the health and safety aspect into the conversation. So Janice, I know that the woman in the trades program that you have at ACON it's a pretty significant one. And we are always looking for different ways for builders to be more included or more active in the recruitment and attracting more women into the industry. So 2 questions in one, but I'm really interested in knowing how this program began or how it operates. And then more importantly, what are the supports that are built into the program that has had the most impact on women's success rates? So whether it's preparing them or just confidence buildings, what are these supports that you have?
Awesome. That's a really good question. And so the program actually started in 2019, and we brought on our first cohort of, I think, about 10 women, and this was before my time. And I think that first cohort was a bunch of women for the Heavy Equipment Operators Union, and they had undergone a number of weeks of training with us, and then also with the Operators Union. So within the program, we want to focus on training the women so that they do have that confidence and that they are ready and capable to step on any of our sites at any of our yards once they have. The program since 2019, obviously COVID hit, and we did do one cohort during 2020, but it was a very short cohort. And so now that we have received a bit more support, we are really ramping up. And since the beginning of this year, so 2022, we have brought on almost 70 to 80 women within our operating sectors, and we'll continue to bring on a number more by the ending of this year. So like I said, that 350 target is definitely something that we will hit. As of right now, we're recruiting, we're getting out to different community partners, leveraging our networks to really promote and create that awareness that this program even exists and that it's really easy. We've made it very easy and streamlined the process in terms of actually applying. So instead of filling out sort of a lengthy application process, women can directly go to our website, send us their resume, and immediately or within 24 to 48 hours, one of our talent acquisition staff would be in contact with them to complete a pre-screen. So again, we don't look for folks who have, a wealth of experience or years of experience. We really want folks who are looking to start their career in a trade, who probably might not have a lot of experience. We don't require experience at all, to be honest. But we also look for folks who are, safety conscious, who are able to take initiative, who are motivated, who understand that being outside, you're outside. We work in all increments of weather, whether it's really hot in the summer and in the winter, we don't shut down. And so I guess one aspect that I've seen be the most impactful, like I mentioned, is the training piece. And so during our onboarding process, there is an orientation. There are a number of weeks of training with us. I always say we Aikonize them prior to sending them to some of our union partners. And during that training, they're at our Training and Innovation Center, where they're receiving health and safety training, small tools training, electrical awareness, everything that they would need to know prior to stepping on site. We are providing PPE if that's something that they need. And also, specifically to our locators, we provide them with a phone, a laptop, and possibly a vehicle if they need to get to and from site. So we really try to ensure that we are giving them all the tools that they need in order to succeed. And so far, it's been very, very successful in terms of connecting with a large pool of women and getting them in, and then sending them to our union partners to complete that registration part. So again, been super successful, and we want to encourage more and more women to consider a career in the trades. I do want to make that clear. It's not just a job. We want to employ people for years. We want to retain them, and we want to invest in them so that they are able to support their families, to be part of a bigger initiative, which is building infrastructure in Ontario.
Yeah, and definitely two of the things that really sounded were the first is just that you're making the process easy for people to join, and that's definitely one of the hurdles that we hear a lot of, well, both women and men say in terms of trying to get into the trades or just navigating how to get into construction. That's really good. And the second is just telling people that this program exists, right? There's a lot of effort that gets done and it doesn't get shared enough. So yeah, that's really good. And then Shayna, I know you're currently on site, and we just spoke about your relationship with men and the women on site and its importance. So what would you say is the sort of relationship that you have with the men and the women on site, how it differs, and then also the importance of seeing other women on site?
Okay, my relationship with men and women, I feel like it's pretty similar, but obviously it has its differences. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like everybody male has a natural kind of assumption for women. So usually it's harder to become or get into a conversation with a man outside of like the working kind of environment. But I feel like once they see the work ethic, or like they see how a woman will perform compared to how they think that they would, it usually changes the conversation, and I feel like it brings the relationship closer just in that aspect. And obviously you guys were mentioning like the boundaries and stuff with joking. So with the women and the men, obviously I have to joke a bit differently with the males compared to the females to kind of counteract. I don't know if that's the word, but I don't know. I usually find that the relationships are pretty similar, but from what I've experienced, when I first see a female or like another female on another site, I feel like I'm intimidated more so because I'm not sure if I feel like I'm not sure if it's a competition sort of thing, like with female against female within the job site kind of thing. But then once you get working with the women, the work is more efficient and it's smoother. And I feel like I enjoy working with the women compared to whatever. But I feel like it's important to be able to see another woman on the site, because then, like you guys were saying, if you feel like you need to go and talk to somebody else, or if you want to have a different kind of connection compared to a male with a female, it's nice to be able to go and kind of share those relationships or share what you both are kind of thinking. So I find that when you have another woman on the site, you guys can both kind of share your mind together.
Yeah, definitely. It relates differently, right? When you're speaking to somebody
Exactly.
that can get it on a much deeper level, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think one of the things, and it relates to what Melissa Young was saying earlier, where like empowered women empower women,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So when that woman is there, it's really nice to see her there, and it's like, we got this, we're gonna do
wave. Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. So just for the closing question, and this is a different type of question, if somebody related to you or somebody that you mentor or that you're close to tells you, I want to go into the construction industry and I want to be working on site and this is my decision, and you have all this experience on site, so you know how it is and you know how it's male dominated and all that, what are the sort of policies or procedures that you want to see in that company for you to think, yes, I support your decision to go? If they're telling you about to go on site tomorrow, what are the sort of things that you want to see on that site or in that company, whether it's health and safety policies, whether it's some sort of procedure to make you support that decision, and what if you see it, you'd actually not support that decision? So I'll send it right to Shayna and then go around.
If a woman was coming to me and kind of was wanting to go onto a job site, obviously I would, I guess it's more so to make sure, like you guys were saying, health and safety. I feel like a lot of the women, when they first join the company, they don't know what to ask, or they don't know how to get the training that they should. So I feel like it's definitely important to direct them to a company or a management team that I guess I would want to say like equally sees the men and the women. So gives the men the same training as the women, gives them the same safety, and especially treats them the same. I've experienced a lot of, they'll give the men kind of bigger jobs and then women smaller. I know you have to work your way up and stuff, but I feel like it's important to feel included when you're going into a job site. So to have that and feel a part of all the other coworkers that you're with makes a big difference. And then, like I said, the health and safety, obviously the training I feel is important.
Perfect. How about you, Sophie?
Like what Shayna said, inclusivity, 100%. You definitely need that, or else, again, you're just going to go back to feeling like super out of place on site. I think if you're a woman who is choosing construction as a career path, you're probably a badass, and you just got to keep going strong. Just be confident, like remain your confident self, focus on what you're doing and be comfortable with what you're doing. Make sure HR is super present, and like any other environment, don't let people discourage you or think you don't belong there, because at the end of the day, everyone's just there to work hard and get the job done. So I think everyone should just keep that in mind as well. And also make sure management is strong on the equality as well. That's what I would say.
Perfect. How about you, Janice?
Sorry, I was just on mute. I think similar to what these ladies just said, that if I were to tell someone to go to a company, what I would look for in a company is definitely a culture of safety. We are super big on safety, and we want folks to return home to their families. Our CEO, Jean-Louis, actually mentioned this in our Safety Week meeting a couple weeks ago, that the Empire State Building, sorry, the Eiffel Tower, when it was actually being built in the 1800s, had 0 casualties in their project timeframe. And I think they came under project within 4 months of their estimated timeframes, while the Empire State Building, when it was being built, had over 9 casualties while that project was getting done. And so, you know, they're very discouraging to hear that when, you know, folks are going to work and not returning home, regardless of how expensive projects are, how timely they might be. We want to ensure that, you know, our resources, meaning our human resources, are making it back to wherever they came from. So that's definitely what I would look for in terms of a company, if you are interested. The other thing is, is there diversity? Are they open to different perspectives from different people? And I simply say that because construction is not, it doesn't get done behind a desk. Although I might be in the office, I do make it out to site quite a bit. With the pandemic, we've seen, folks prefer to stay at home and not really come into the office. And so with our folks that work in the field, they didn't have that luxury. Work still had to get done. And so problem solving doesn't get done behind a desk, it gets done within the field. And so, I want to encourage folks to, if you are looking for an employer that is on top of things and relevant, I would want to say that make sure that they are inclusive and they are having diverse opinions in their workforce. So, yeah.
Great. And lastly, Veronica.
You know what? I think everybody, the women here have spoke wonderfully about and answered the question that you said, because like everyone said about inclusion, that's very important. And something that I was thinking about when I was listening to Charmaine speak, she's wonderful. She said, if you see me, you can be me. And I think if some young woman was interested in working, I'm going to use our company as a reference, they wanted to work with us. That is something that I think is also important. Of course, we have our HR, we have health and safety, we have outlets for people when they don't feel safe, and we want them to be as safe as possible on site with the training. But I think it is important also to embrace the difference that we as women bring to every situation. And I think it's such a wonderful difference, and I think it's such a positive thing when we do see and when we want to welcome and include more women in construction, that we don't have to be at the men's table. We don't have to sit anywhere near there. We don't have to be treated differently. We are who we are, and we're doing the exact same work as everyone else. And we really shouldn't be treated differently, and we should embrace that.
That's great. Thank you all for being with us. Honestly, it's been great. We've learned so much. Amina, Andrew, and I, we work a lot on women in construction and just attracting more women, and we really do believe in it. And every time I pass by a site and I see a woman, I'm like, yes, like you belong there. And like Sophie said it, you're a badass. Like, yes, you're killing it, So it's very encouraging for sure when we see people there, and the women specifically, and we're, makes us optimistic about the future. So thank you again for being with us and just sharing all your insight. We've truly learned a lot. Now I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's going to walk us through some poll questions.
Perfect. So I'm just moving some stuff around. So we're going to launch poll questions. So we started this last year with the first event. And essentially, one of the things that came out of the last event was the need to benchmark. So I think everybody has talked about the importance of good data. And so we have an opportunity with all the people on here to create data and get a feel for where we're at as an industry. And so you will see the same questions you saw last year, and it's important to track progress over time. That I think is the definition of benchmarking. And I think one thing that we did when we launched this, I don't know if it's a campaign or whatever it is, was commitment to continuous improvement. I think we all know that getting more women in construction is not a one and done issue. It's something that we've just got to build into everything that we do. So with that, I'm going to launch the first poll question. So if people can tell me that it's working. So the first question, oh, perfect. Okay. So the first question is, what are the top challenges with respect to retaining women? And please click all that apply. It's good that we've enabled the chat, because if there's another category, we certainly want to know it. So we've got some questions coming in. For context, the top 3 answers last year were not enough female coworkers. They don't want to be the only woman in the workplace. And that was at 25%. At 21% was hours of work. So this was issues with childcare and other family commitments. And then the third most popular was workplace culture. So the answers are still coming in. So we're going to give people a couple more seconds here. We're at about 60% participation, which is not bad. Okay, maybe another 10, 15 seconds. Okay, great. So the top answers were hours of work. Doesn't work with childcare and other family commitments. Not enough female coworkers. They don't want to be the only one. Oh, and I'm sorry, actually the top one was workplace culture. And so it looks like the 3 remained the top, but I think we do really have to look at lack of mentorship. I think this is an issue across the industry, but certainly might even be a bigger issue facing women when they want to get into construction. Can everybody see these? Okay, now we can see them. Okay.
Yeah, and I just changed it too, because before I don't think the panelists were allowed to participate in the poll, so you should be able to participate now. Janice,
yeah, we certainly want
Monica,
their opinion.
Sophia.
And we are going to wrap this up, and we will be sharing kind of the results and the information at an aggregate level afterwards. And so, nobody has to take notes or anything today. We are going to make sure that this goes out to everybody. So, okay, now let's go poll question 2. Okay, and we're going to launch. Great, so that is open now. So what percentage of women are employed by your employer? And we're separating this for in office. We'll later ask about on-site. So what percentage of women are employed by your employer in the office? And give your best estimate, because not all of us are head of HR and know exactly what the number is. So if you can answer a range. So when we did this last year, 41% said between 25 and 50%. 40% said more than 50%. And then less than or between 10 and 25 was 14%. So we're getting good participation here. Give it a couple more seconds. Okay, so ending the poll, sharing the results. Yeah, so again, it looks like the 2 top answers are between 25 and 50% and more than 50%. I think it's no surprise that when it comes to getting women into construction, we have done a lot better in the non kind of skilled trades or the non-on-site. And so I guess the opportunity there is let's take the lessons that we've learned and apply them to on-site. So let's go to question 3. Okay, so we're launching question 3. Are you aware of a mentorship program within your current workplace / have you participated in that program in the past? And so last year we had 47% said no mentorship program existed in my workplace. 30% said unsure if one exists. and only 17% said yes, they're aware of the program and had participated. So essentially 70% of respondents, there was no program or they weren't even aware of one. And then last was 6% at they were aware of it but had not participated. So I'm going to end the poll now. We'll share the results. Okay, so this has not changed too much. Still about 73% of people that responded, there either is no mentorship program or they're not sure if one exists. There is a slight, well, it's flat as well as for who's participated, but there is a slight increase in the number of people who are aware but haven't participated. And I guess as we dive more into mentorship, I guess one question is how can we create more mentorship programs? And then a second question would be for the people who are aware of a mentorship program but are choosing not to participate, I guess the question is why. So for now. Okay, so this looks at on-site. So please think about on-site workers here. What percentage of women are employed by your employer on-site? So on-site for this. Okay, so last year, less than 10%, 55% of the respondents. Between 10 and 25% was 30%. And then more than 50% was at 10%, and between 25 and 50 was 7%. Give it a couple more seconds here. Okay, so we're ending the poll. So less than 10% again is the top answer. And to be honest, it was 55% last year at 68% this year. Between 10 and 25%, it's gone up. And so I think that's great. But I think this is meaningful data in the sense that this is what we need to track. We have to understand where we're at before we can kind of make improvements. So I think it's good that people are answering these questions and gives us a good snapshot of where we're at. So, okay, moving to question 5. We'll launch. Who are you representing? So this is just helpful. We like to know who comes to the webinars. Obviously, we think builders are very important to the process, but we are well aware that builders cannot, finish houses or condos without, the very important role of the sub-trades, the union members that are working on site. As an industry, we all have to work together. And so we're always just trying to figure out who's on. We're also interested in, whether we get participation from training delivery agents as well as government, because again, the phrase of we're all in this together certainly applies, and it probably came from construction. So, yeah, so we've got about 66% participation. Like last year, and I guess it makes sense because we all are builder association, the top one is builder, and then the second one is other. So we'll flush that out a bit more too. So we'll end the poll, we'll share the results. Yeah, so 35% builder, 30% other. It's great to see, some representation from government because obviously we need to work together in addressing some of these issues. Moving to question 6, we'll launch. Okay, what are the top challenges to hiring more women? Click all that apply. Okay, and so last year, not enough women are interested at 50%, workplace culture at 27%, and physical infrastructure, so bathrooms, change rooms at 15% were the top 3. I'll give it a couple more seconds here. And it's good to know. So Tarion is on the call too. I think that's excellent as well. Okay, so we're at 70%. We'll end the poll. We'll share the results. So this is interesting. Not enough women are interested. And so it's never good to argue with statistics, but I can't help myself. We've had great leaders, great panelists. that at least when I've listened to them have said the exact opposite. There are a lot of women that I think everybody has met that are very interested in construction. And so not to argue with the stats or what people are saying, but I guess we need to dig a bit deeper and figure out why people are answering that question. If we open it back up to the panelists and other people on here, I would say there are a lot of women interested, but this is very interesting. I think workplace culture, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, maybe one takeaway that we've got to do a deeper dive on is the workplace culture, why not enough women are interested? Is that it? Is it the barriers? Is it some of the other stuff? But, I'm never going to complain with data, but that one stands out as a little bit weird. I think there are lots of women that want to get into construction. Anyways, we'll go to question 7. Launch. So is getting more women into construction a strategic priority for your company? Last year, 48% said yes, 37% said they're unsure, and only 15% said no.
Yeah, I'd like to think if you're unsure that if it's a strategic priority, I would assume it's not. I think with like these sort of issues and initiatives, especially women in construction, and it's certainly something that companies like to share with their entire workforce. So I would assume that a lot of if you're unsure, it probably isn't.
And I guess it speaks to the importance of communicating strategic plans as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll end the poll, we'll share the results. So yes is still number 1. Unsure has gone up a little bit. And so that's fine. And actually, no has gone up as well. So I think that's very interesting, and we'll have to dig into it. So with that, I think that concludes the poll question part of the presentation. I'm going to close that down. So again, we are going to take this, we're going to take the data that we've collected, we're going to compare it to last year's, and we are going to get it out to everybody. There's a number of committees at RESCON that's very interested in this data. One of them is the Training and Education Committee, but also, Amina and Ahid and I, we work on a bunch of different committees that are interested in this. The board's interested in it. There's interest at all levels. So I'm going to pull up my remarks here for closing remarks. So I guess to start, thank you. So thank you to Ahid and Amina. This webinar was a lot of work, and they did the bulk, if not all of it. I think we had a very good turnout, so thank you to the attendees, and then thank you to the speakers. Not all the speakers are on, but I think it was fantastic. It was a pleasure to sit back and watch. The minister, Melissa, all the panelists, we still have, Shana, Janice, Veronica, and Sophie. Thank you very much. But thank you to the companies who do make this an issue and are kind of leading the way. Veronica and Sophie represents a RESCON member who has really kind of led the way in this initiative. And so when you look at the Reno Model family, the Reno Model group of companies, the shout out to your aunt from the drywall side, they are practicing what they preach, and they're leading the way. So there's a great saying in the construction industry, I probably heard it from Ernie, which is the early bird gets the worm and the second mouse gets the cheese. And lots of companies want to be that second mouse, but certainly the Reno Mottos have been the early bird when it comes to getting women into construction. And so I think that's very important to note. And they've done a lot to try and figure it out. So thank you to everybody. I think trying to summarize this webinar is not going to be easy, and so I'm not going to really try to do it. I will say that a recording will be made available, and so please watch it again and share it, with all of your contacts. But a main point that I wrote down before the poll questions was, as we have heard today, women want to be in construction, and I thought that was very clear, and so I think it's worth saying, and it's worth digging into. I think what we heard today is that women want to be in construction, but that there's barriers that we need to remove, and there's supports that we need to increase. And women in construction is a labor supply issue. It's a health and safety issue. It's a productivity issue. It's an economic development issue. It's an equal rights issue. It's an issue that impacts every part of the construction industry and every part of, really Ontario and Canada. It needs to be a part of everyone's conversation. It needs to be discussed and thought about across the industry and across the entire economy. It's not an issue for just women to solve. It's an issue to think about before women get on construction sites. I think we've heard today, are women going to be welcomed on that site? Will they have a mentor? Will they have the physical infrastructure they need? Will they have change rooms? Will they have proper facilities? If we're not thinking ahead, then we've already lost before we start. So if a woman goes to a site and that site isn't ready for her and it's not welcoming and there's not change facilities and there's not a path for success there, can we be shocked if that woman doesn't stay on that site? Do we then say, oh, she just wasn't interested? She wasn't willing to do what it would have taken to stay there. I think we've got to get past that. Construction is a leader in many, 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 many different ways. We're not in this way. We're behind manufacturing. We're behind the military. We're behind what we've been able to do in office and away from site. And so when it comes to site, we need to increase the efforts that we're doing, and we need to focus on retention. We need to focus on promotion, but we need to focus on creating an environment that is fair and equitable and prioritizes giving women opportunity. I don't think we need to give them special treatment. We just need to give them a chance. And I think if we did, the number would go from, below 10 and in some cases below 5% to much closer to 50%. I think a lot of times, and it's good, women, need to be part of the conversation and need to take a lead, but they can't do it alone and they shouldn't do it alone. There's lots of room for men in this conversation. There's lots of room for private sector, public sector, governments, subtrades, builders, regulators. Everybody needs to be thinking about this, because the truth is we have a labor supply problem right now. As the government, all three levels of government have agreed we need more housing in Ontario and in Canada. Well, we're not going to do that if we don't get more women into construction. And so I'm not trying to get on a soapbox here. It's just, this has got to be part of our solution for the industry. And it's the right thing to do. But it's also going to be, immensely helpful in some of the other goals that we have, which is simply building more of the houses and condos that Ontario needs. So with that, it's 11:30 and I'll end it. I would like to promote a couple more RESCON events that are coming up. The next event is on November 1st. It's the 3rd annual Addressing Racism in Construction. And the last event that I want to promote is the 4th annual Mental Health and Addictions in Construction Symposium, and that's going to be at the end of November. But just as final thoughts, thank you to all of the speakers, Ahid and Amina, and everybody that made today possible. And then for everybody on it that's watching, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of good work to make it the workplace better for women, to remove barriers and create opportunities. And so thank you to all the people on the call that have made this a strategic priority and are making, construction a better industry for women. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.